Yes, let's finish reading. Yes, I can finish eating my food. It's almost 10 p.m. I like to go to bed soon. There was no news, no late evening news.
In 2015, the New York Times published an article about the declassified report of Operation Avaris in 2005 which over 400 chemical weapons including many rockets and missiles from the Iran-Iraq war period were recovered and subsequently destroyed by the CIA. 143, many other stockpiles, estimated by UNSCOM up to 600 metric tons of chemical weapons, were known to have existed and even admitted by Saddam's regime, but claimed by them to have been destroyed. These have never been found but are believed to still exist. 144, 145, Iraq War. During Operation Iraqi Freedom, American service members who demolished or handled older explosive ordnance may have been exposed to blister agents, mustard agent, or nerve agents, sarin. 146, according to the New York Times. In all, American troops secretly reported finding roughly 5,000 chemical warheads, shells or aviation bombs, according to interviews with dozens of participants, Iraqi and American officials, and heavily redacted intelligence documents obtained under the Freedom of Information Act. 147, among these, over 2,400 nerve agent rockets were found in summer 2006 at Camp Taji, a former Iraqi Republican Guard compound. These weapons were not part of an active arsenal. They were remnants from an Iraqi program in the 1980s during the Iran-Iraq War. 147, Syrian Civil War. Some of the victims of the Ghouta Syria attack, the 21st of August, 2013 sarin, mustard gas, and chlorine have been used during the conflict. Numerous casualties led to an international reaction, especially the 2013 Ghouta attacks. A UN fact-finding mission was requested to investigate alleged chemical weapons attacks. In 4 cases the UN inspectors confirmed use of sarin gas. 148, in August 2016, a confidential report by the United Nations and the OPCW explicitly blamed the Syrian military of Bashar al-Assad for dropping chemical weapons, chlorine bombs, on the towns of Talmenz in April 2014 and Somin in March 2015 and ISIS for using sulfur mustard on the town of Maria in August 2015. 149, in 2016, Jaish al-Islam rebel group had used chlorine gas or other agents against Kurdish militia and civilians in the Sheikh Maksud neighborhood of Aleppo. 150. Many countries, including the United States and the European Union, have accused the Syrian government of conducting several chemical attacks. Following the 2013 Ghouta attacks and international pressure, Syria acceded to the Chemical Weapons Convention and the destruction of Syria's chemical weapons began. In 2015, the UN mission disclosed previously undeclared traces of sarin compounds in a military research site. 151. After the April 2017 Khan Sheikhoun chemical attack, the United States launched its first attack against Syrian government forces. On the 14th of April 2018, the United States, France and the United Kingdom carried out a series of joint military strikes against multiple government sites in Syria, including the Gaza Scientific Research Center, after a chemical attack in Douma. Terrorism and anti-terrorism. For many terrorist organizations, chemical weapons might be considered an ideal choice for a mode of attack. If they are available, they are cheap, relatively accessible, and easy to transport. A skilled chemist can readily synthesize most chemical agents if the precursors are available. In July 1974, a group calling themselves the Aliens of America successfully firebombed the houses of a judge, 2 police commissioners, and one of the commissioners' cars, burned down 2 apartment buildings, and bombed the Pan Am terminal at Los Angeles International Airport, killing 3 people and injuring 8. The organization, which turned out to be a single resident alien named Muharrem Kurbakovic, claimed to have developed and possessed a supply of sarin, as well as 4 unique nerve agents named AA1, AA2, AA3, and AA4S. Although no agents were found at the time Kurbakovic was arrested in August 1974, he had reportedly acquired all but one of the ingredients required to produce an agent. A search of his apartment turned up a variety of materials, including precursors for phosgene and a drum containing 25 pounds of sodium cyanide. 152. U.S. Navy Seabees don their M40 field protective mask. The first successful use of chemical agents by terrorists against a general civilian population was on the 27th of June, 1994, when Aum Shinrikyo, an apocalyptic group based in Japan that believed it necessary to destroy the planet, released sarin gas in Matsumoto, Japan, killing 8 and harming 200. Following year, Aum Shinrikyo released sarin into the Tokyo system, killing 12 and injuring over 5,000. On the 29th of December, 1999, 4 days after Russian forces began an assault of Grozny, Chechen terrorists exploded 2 chlorine tanks in the town. Because of the wind conditions, no Russian soldiers were injured. 153. Following the 11th of September attacks on the U.S. cities of New York City and Washington, D.C., the organization Al-Qaeda responsible for the attacks announced that they were attempting to acquire radiological, biological, and chemical weapons. This threat was lent a great deal of credibility when a large archive of videotapes was obtained by the cable television network CNN in August 2002, showing, among other things, the killing of 3 dogs by an apparent nerve agent. 154, in an anti-terrorist attack on the 26th of October, 2002, Russian special forces used a chemical agent, presumably KOL-1, an aerosolized fentanyl derivative, as a precursor to an assault on Chechen terrorists, which ended the Moscow theater hostage crisis. All 42 of the terrorists and 120 out of 850 hostages were killed during the raid. Although the use of the chemical agent was justified as a means of selectively targeting terrorists, it killed over 100 hostages. In early 2007, Multiple terrorist bombings had been reported in Iraq using chlorine gas. These attacks wounded or sickened more than 350 people. Reportedly, the bombers were affiliated with Al-Qaeda in Iraq, 155, and they have used bombs of various sizes up to chlorine tanker trucks. 156. United Nations Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon condemned the attacks as clearly intended to cause panic and instability in the country. 157. Chemical Weapons Treaties. The Protocol for the Prohibition of the Use in War of asphyxiating, poisonous or other gases, and the bacteriological methods of warfare, or the Geneva Protocol, is an international treaty which prohibits use of chemical and biological weapons between signatory nations in international armed conflicts. Signed into international law at Geneva on the 17th of June, 1925, and entered into force on the 8th of February, 1928. This treaty states that chemical and biological weapons are justly condemned by the general opinion of the civilized world. 158. Chemical Weapons Convention. States parties to the Chemical Weapons Convention in 2015. Light-colored territories are those states parties that have declared stockpiles of chemical weapons and forward/or have own production facilities for chemical weapons. The most recent arms control agreement in international law, the Convention of the Prohibition of the Development, Production, Stockpiling and Use of Chemical Weapons and on their Destruction, or the Chemical Weapons Convention, outlaws the production, stockpiling, and use of chemical weapons. It is administered by the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons, OPCW, an intergovernmental organization based in The Hague. 159. References.
Good. I did finish.
History of Chemical Warfare.
Yes, but we need to split in 2 minutes. I'm tired, I like to go to bed. It's 10. So I will read again tomorrow. But now I need to go to bed.